Washington's tariffs on China are going through the roof. This comes as Beijing is slapping 34% tariffs on U.S. imports, a staunch countermeasure against Washington's slew of levies. The White House has confirmed the additional 50% tariffs on China are on top of its initial reciprocal tariff of 34% and the existing 20% levy. With trade tensions ratcheted up, questions are being asked about whether Washington itself can handle the fallout.
I think it's interesting that the U.S. is trying to exert a lot of influence, but by no means do they hold all the cards, not the least of which is because China is positioning itself in a very muscular kind of way to say, well, if you want a tariff war, bring it on. We're pretty sure we can weather that kind of storm.
The U.S. trade representative has given an overview of how the reciprocal tariffs on Washington's trading partners are calculated. It's summarized into what looks like a complicated mathematical formula. When you unpack this formula, it actually comes down to simple maths. Take the trade deficit for the U.S. in goods with a particular country, divide that by the total goods imported from that country, and then divide that number by 2. The U.S.'s goods deficit with China stands at about $295 billion US, and the total amount it buys from China is $440 billion. Dividing 295 by 440 comes to 67%, and divide that by 2 and round up, we get 34%. Many experts have pointed out that the White House's reciprocal methodology is not scientific or reasonable.
Personally, I've never seen it. So often tariffs are already expressed in percentage terms, and then you can just take the number from the trade bulletins or wherever they are published. Other tariffs or non-tariff barriers need to be converted into ad valorem equivalents, and there are ways how economists do that. It really depends on the measure. They're doing it based on a formula that relies on trade, looks at trade deficits or like a trade deficit ratio to imports. Personally, I've never seen that.
When he was in office, former President Ronald Reagan was hit by one of the worst recessions the U.S. had faced since the Great Depression. He vaulted by promoting a free market.
Indeed, throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. Now, there are sound historical reasons for this. For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery.
The United States is now backtracking on its free trade path, with analysts warning of a possible recession in the wake of America's tariff war. With global markets tumbling and the economic uncertainties increased, the future of the economy hangs in the balance. 高一鸣 CGTN